so glad to be finally talking about this album here from Vale-Smith, Rekindle, one of the most exciting and promising younger artists in the electronic world right now, one of the most exciting up-and-comers. This guy should be getting big numbers for, you know, the kind of music he's making, considering the contemporaries in the kind of wonky UK bass electronic world at the moment. I think he's up there with some of the best, and I think his albums so far have really proven that. I think his 2020 album was such a fantastic release to be you know, listening to during the lockdown days, during the days when things were so weird. It was a comforting album. It was an addictive album as well, I would say that too. And then Coruscate, earlier this year, 2022, right at the start, right at the beginning of the year, we got Coruscate, which was honestly even better than the 2021. Basically what I'd already said about the 2021, but just slightly more developed and refined, and everything just kind of clicked into place a little bit better. Some of the melodies have stuck with me ever since. Like Setting Sun gets stuck in my head quite regularly. I absolutely adore that track. I think it's fantastic. I think the whole album is fantastic. Both albums are great. He's had music before this as well. He's just been a really fun artist to keep up with. Always hyped to see what he does. It's just great to see someone that I know and really like and appreciate as a friend just drop some great music. And Rekindle is here, the second release in 2022 from this guy. Usually this kind of thing would make me kind of scratch my head a bit, because I'm like, oh shit, this artist is dropping 2 albums in a year. But it seemed like it could be interesting and slightly different to Coruscate, so I was definitely intrigued to see what he would do to differentiate from what he'd already done in the past. Now, I'm not going to say that the entire thing feels completely new. In fact, I think quite a bulk of it is very much what I'd expect Vale-Smith to drop, which isn't an attack on him, but I just think in terms of what we've heard already this year, I mean, it's only been like 7-8 months or whatever, it does feel quite familiar. The opening track, you know, the earwormy melodies that are really omnipresent on Coruscate really crop up on here as well. But when I say earwormy melodies, that's obviously a good thing. So even though it might remind me of some things I've heard from him before, it's still getting stuck in my head and it still sounds so good, and I'm still vibing to it. The track One Conversation, which again is you know, giving us those dizzying textures that we've come to know from this guy already. I think, you know, these kinds of layers that he's able to kind of layer on top of one another on his tracks has really grown since his early days. Like, I think as an artist, he's definitely gained more recognition since 2020, but it's easy to forget that actually he's been dropping music before that, and he wasn't quite as, you know, popular as he is now since then. So, you know, those early releases didn't quite have that scale of layers. It was all quite simplistic, but you can see the growth that he's able to just make these kinds of, you know, whirlwindy instrumentals like he is on tracks like this. The driving tinny beat, which is taking up the title track, particularly in the second half, is fantastic. Love the way this kind of kicks in and just really gears up. But one of the highlights on this album for me, man, has got to be Glade Road. Glade Road? I mean, what a song. What a song. Like, this right here for me is just exactly what I just love about his music. It's just a melody that can just stick with you for as long as it can, and the way it just keeps developing as well, and the way it just feels so fresh. That's one of the words I love about what I want to describe about Vale-Smith's music, and I love to use about his music, because it just does feel fresh. I feel like I'm listening to something that, yeah, other artists might be able to do, and they are doing at the moment, but there's just something about these kinds of melodies that just are so cascading and just so big and huge that I just absolutely adore about his music. And I want to keep going into this second half, because I think the second half is absolute gem after gem, like some of the best songs he's ever made, honestly. Before I get to the real gems though, I do want to mention Busted, which has this like bustling, beefy beat. Oh my god, this beat is so busted, man. I mean, it's literally the title of the track. It is so thick. But yeah, man, this guy has decided to experiment a little bit more with like vocal samples and vocal chopping and stuff with tracks like Ice. I mean, I'm just so impressed to hear this kind of thing on his albums, because it just feels once again like he's pushing his sound even further into a new territory that he hasn't really reached into before, and it's honestly quite danceable. Like I'm listening to this thinking this guy could be DJing some festivals at some point, because honestly this would go off. The stuttering vocals on the on Lightning World sound absolutely fantastic as well, and super catchy. Again, just taking what he's already done, just pushing it even further in such a great direction, and such an exciting direction too. Yeah, like as much as I do like this album overall, I just think these moments actually feel like the freshest we've heard from him to date, because there are some familiarities of his other work on some of these tracks, and it's still good because obviously his other tracks, you know, his other work is really good, and these other tracks are really good too. But just when I started to get a taste of this new sort of sound that he was pushing on, like I say, Ice and Lightning World, I was like getting even more excited, because I kind of want to hear a whole album like this. But I haven't even talked about my favorite track though, Just My Luck. Oh mate, this track right here, man, these vocals are so good, man. What the hell, it sounds so good. It sounds like something Fortet would do, and then he like gets Aluna George on his track, or he like, Fortet is chopping up Aluna George's vocals and creates a whole song around that. That is Just My Luck. Yes, Vale-Smith, you are as good as Fortet. I have said it right here. This track is so good. Again, so addictive. That's what I love about Vale-Smith's music. I'm just always addicted to playing his songs over and over again, and just running through his albums, because they're just so clean, you know? They just go in such great directions. The melodies take you in different places. It's so good. So yeah, really good album. Really enjoying this a lot. Probably took a bit longer to get to it than I wanted to in terms of a review, but to be fair, maybe this will boost his recognition even further by, you know, doing the review 2 weeks after it came out, which he only really deserves. Any more boosts he can possibly get, let's be honest. But yeah, really good album. The sort of taste of what could be the future of Vale-Smith was easily my favorite aspect of the album. Those tracks that I've highlighted as the gems, like that for me is really like promising, and I want to see what he goes for in the future with those tracks, because that to me, man, oof, I was dancing, man. So yeah, 7 out of 10 from me. I think this is really good album. Slightly prefer Chorus Gate, I will say that, but even still, like, you know, they're separate albums, they're not the same thing. The direction he could go in the future though, I'm excited, and I just want to keep praising his music, because it is genuinely really good, and he's so consistent as well. Like, his past few albums have been pretty much great. Like, he's just on this trajectory of going upwards and onwards, and it just seems like there's no going back. Like, it's always just going to be good now, and that's great. There's no slip-ups. Even the EP, actually, there was an EP drop which was really good too. Yeah, this is a good sign. I like Vale-Smith. He should be getting more recognition. Please check out this album. Please let me know your thoughts if you have already heard it in the comments. And if you haven't, check it out, get back to me and tell me what you think. But thank you for watching as always. Do have a good day. Subscribe if you haven't already, and goodbye.